Both Moody's and Standard & Poor's putting Burger King on notice for a possible credit downgrade following the fast food chain's move to buy Canadian donut chain Tim Hortons. The deal, which would move Burger King headquarters to Canada, taking advantage, of course, of that lower corporate tax rate, sure to face increased congressional tax inversion scrutiny. Joining us this morning is North Carolina Republican, House Financial Services member Robert Pittenger. Congressman, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
This Burger King story has real legs, as we say in the news business, although a lot of people not convinced that it's going to spur Congress to do anything substantial. Can you convince me otherwise?
Well, it should spur Congress and the executive branch to look seriously at lowering our corporate tax rate. Companies are doing whatever they must do to try to survive. Look at the enormous burden that they're placed with in a high regulatory environment. Look at the cost of the Unaffordable Health Care Act and the cost that they're having to bear with that, plus the highest corporate rate in the entire world. These companies are trying to compete in world markets. They have accountabilities back to the markets. They have accountabilities back to their employees. They have accountabilities back to try to expand their businesses. So is it any wonder that they're doing whatever they must do? You know, when I was in the North Carolina Senate, we had, in North Carolina at that time, a decade ago, had the highest corporate and marginal rates of any state in the Southeast. We were losing by default to Tennessee and to South Carolina. I fought hard trying to make this issue clear to the business community, to our legislature. We fought hard because we were frankly faced with a Democrat legislature that had been in place since Reconstruction. Yet we finally prevailed. And today, North Carolina can compete. Should we have criticized those companies who wanted to go to other states? No, we shouldn't do that. We should
so you're not
create
in
a more
favor
competitive market. You're
not in favor of boycotting Burger King as some of your colleagues are?
No, sir. I would never boycott Burger King. We should be driven by a competitive markets. Shame on us for having the highest corporate tax rate in the entire world. Well, you cannot blame a company for trying to expand their markets and trying to compete.
Right, and there have been efforts, of course, Baucus camp trying to do this, trying to fix taxes here in this country. It hasn't amounted to much. Why not? And why is that going to be different in the next session?
You know, we couldn't even lower our overall tax burden to be revenue neutral. Max Baucus and John Kemp worked hard on this. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was a good plan that would lower the rates for everyone and created millions more jobs. But that didn't happen. You know why? Senator Reid and Barack Obama came in and said, well, we need about $1 trillion more in new revenue. We couldn't have a revenue neutral plan to change our tax code. That doesn't make sense. We need to compete in world markets. We need to realize that the high tax burden that we have today is impeding that growth. Ronald Reagan understood it. He understood. He cut the regulatory burden. He cut the tax burden back in the 80s. And what happened? The economy took off. We created 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 jobs a month. 1 month, 1 million jobs, because we had created an environment for growth. That's what we need to be doing now. Now companies are burdened down with the regulatory environment, with a tax burden, and now, of course, Obamacare.
So both sides of both parties do agree that something needs to be done to reform the tax code. I understand that you're blaming the Democrats, and the Democrats, interestingly enough, are blaming companies. I just want to play for you a piece of sound. We interviewed Congressman Bill Pascrell yesterday. I asked him why nothing was getting done on tax reform. Listen to what he said.
The fact of the matter is, it's not you or me that makes the tax code most of the time, not even if I'm a member of Congress. It's those folks who are able to steer the tax code to changes that benefit their corporation. The fact is that you cannot get a reconciliation with people who keep on saying no. And until Boehner gets some guts and stands up to these characters and doesn't let them steer the boat, we're not going to get any change in the tax code.
So there's plenty of blame to go around, Congressman, but the point is it's shame on you for no action and the fact that the Republicans have not put a comprehensive plan together forward to move this forward to get some type of action.
Well, we do have a plan, and we submitted the plan. As I said, Senator Reid and President Obama nixed the plan. It was a good bipartisan plan.
Well, it has to be a plan that both sides can come to. There has to be some sort of
agreement. It was a plan that Senator Baucus. Senator Baucus is the Democratic chair of the Banking Committee, and he and Congressman Camp came to agreement on this, and they laid it out, but the pushback came from the Democrats on trying to revise the tax code to make it revenue neutral. They wouldn't allow us to do that. I would say to the congressman that, you know, what we've done is the law has been set by Congress. Yes, there are loopholes, there are special privileges and opportunities carved out by folks in Washington representing special interest. We dealt with that in this tax code. That should be addressed. We should lower the rates for everybody, and we can do that, and we should do that. But right now, the corporations, the point of focus today, they're having to make these decisions under duress. The duress of having a high regulatory environment. And
forgive me. I really, just as a matter of fact, object to the idea that corporations are victims in this country. The proportion of GDP that is made in profits by corporations has never been higher. If you look specifically at what you're talking about, which is the Burger King business, it's actually doubled its operating margins to 52% over the course of the last 12 months. These are highly profitable businesses that are stealing a march, it would appear, on everyone. My question to you would be, and I am a guest in your country, I am a foreigner, why is nothing done about it ultimately? Why this smokescreen of disagreement? Is it, and this is a question because frankly they have funded the election campaigns, private equity or whoever it is, of most of the people that are sitting in Congress? Is it effectively, as most people might say, because they've been bought off?
Sir, I concur. We need a fair and simpler tax code. There are carve-outs for many companies. They have their people in Washington, D.C. They're knocking on the doors. You know, our tax code is 70,000 pages, and it's that large because of these special carve-outs. I am against all that. We shouldn't have that. We should have a tax burden that's fair for everyone. But today, it's a real disincentive to have the highest corporate rate in the entire world. They have to compete on a world market. So let's look at the total picture on this. I'm all for reforming the tax code to make it fair and clean and not give special carve-outs. But at the same time, we can't look out and say, well, the highest corporate rate doesn't matter. Sure it matters. We've got to be responsive. We have to understand the role of what corporations are trying to do. They're trying to compete. Yep. They're looking to the future, what they have to do in terms of expanding their business and compete in future markets.
Congressman, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for your time. Robert Pittenger of North Carolina joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Okay, let's get back to the markets, check where we are at the New York Merc with breaking news on crude oil.
Simon, we've got weekly inventory numbers, the government reporting that crude